Yes, welcome into Sportsbit Betting Insight today, Wednesday, May 18th. Paulie and Teddy, deep dive today. You're at risk when you're the first book to come up with college football games of the year. We'll get to that. Big game breakdown. OKC Warriors game 2. Well, we start with bad beats and bad bets. And game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals last night, the Cavs made 7 threes and they won by 30. Mercy. And that is 16 straight playoff wins in the Eastern Conference for the Cavs now. I mean, what was the highest price you saw in this series, Teddy? This could be a bloodbath.
Well, again, let's not forget San Antonio OKC game 1, where the whole series is not necessarily defined by what you see through the first 48 minutes. That being said, this series certainly doesn't feel like Spurs Thunder in that regard. Toronto is not OKC. But, I mean, it was nothing but Cavs money in that series, Paulie. As we mentioned, it started minus 1,000, minus 1,100. We talked about it on yesterday's show. It was minus 1,500, minus 1,600. It was as high as minus 1,800. 18-1 on the Cavs to win the series. But that doesn't surprise me. I thought the price was warranted. And certainly game 1 played out the way that we thought that it might. How about this stat? The Cavs scored the first 25 transition points in the game. That's from ESPN Stats and Info, which tells a little bit about how the layoff affected Cleveland. They were fresh, and how the lack of a layoff affected Toronto.
Who was on LeBron? What was that? I mean, he made 11 of his first 12 shots. He had one 3-point attempt, but 9 of his 11 made shots were either dunks or layups.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was a dunk party. The Cavs, we talked about this in the preview yesterday. I was saying that what does Toronto have defensively against LeBron? The answer from game 1 was absolutely nothing. And, Dwayne Casey was half smart in not pushing Lowry and DeRozan on the floor. Those two still ended up on the court more than any other players, Paulie.
Yeah.
So, LeBron does whatever he wants. Lowry and DeRozan play the most minutes for the Raptors, who are the two guys they've got to keep fresh. And, of course, on the boards, Cavs 45, Raptors 23. No Raptor had more than 4 boards in the game. A lot of problems here for Toronto moving forward.
Yeah, 15 to start, 9-0 in the playoffs, 2 off the record. The record's 11 straight wins to start the playoffs. 89 and the 0-1 Lakers have that record. And again, staggering 16 in a row in the Eastern Conference with the playoffs. A bad beat? How about the Bucks here? This was 202, bet down to 197.5. So the books got middled, and I had the over, and that was ridiculous. It was 180 with 6:50 left. And then you got Corey Joseph, who stopped playing. Dribble, not even looking at the basket till like 7 seconds left on the shot clock. He would pass the ball, and they would refuse to shoot. Normally, when you got a blowout, the guys are excited to get in off the bench, and they're chucking. For whatever reason, Toronto wasn't shooting the ball.
Yeah, I mean, again, that game absolutely died over the back 7 minutes. Sometimes that'll happen in a blowout, and particularly when you're talking about a tired team like Toronto. They didn't have a lot left in the tank. I mean, no legs on defense whatsoever. Cleveland scored at will in that contest, but as you mentioned, the 3-pointers weren't really falling. And oh my God, I missed a photo. The Raptors song girls might have done a better good job of guarding LeBron than what we saw. I mean, really. For the books, okay, certainly not a great result with the game landing in the middle. But, Paulie, you've had a bunch of these in the postseason. You've either been betting into numbers that are just, you haven't gotten quite the best of it, or you've been doing live betting and you're sitting there ripping your hair out at the end of these games.
Yeah, the live betting, it was Cleveland again. It was game 4, Cleveland and Atlanta died. Remember what that was like 50-44 with 6 minutes in the second quarter, and it stayed under. I mean, this is total bullshit what's going on.
NBA playoffs, man, they're not easy. I'll tell you that. They're never easy. And sometimes you get into a nice rhythm and you start to see these things real clearly. If you had OKC on Monday, you had Cleveland on Tuesday, you're certainly in that role. If you're Paulie and losing all these games at the end, not so much.
Yeah, they really stuck it to me at the end, too. Both teams dribble it out. Both teams dribble it out in the final possession.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Like, give me a bucket. One bucket. 1-3 at the buzzer. Didn't get there. Sorry, buddy.
Bad bets. They were heavy money on the Nationals. Mets went from $1.30 favorite to the underdogs, and Thor was sensational with 8 strong.
Yeah, well, I mean, Syndergaard and two relievers, 13 strikeouts, 0 walks, 5 hits. I can understand the Scherzer money, but I can't understand the anti-Syndergaard money. This guy's as good as anybody in baseball right now. I mean,
Yep.
he legitimately is. And Washington shut out, and nothing against from the cleanup spot. Another thing we talked about on yesterday's Sports Bit with Ryan Zimmerman continuing to struggle.
Cubbies sped up from 165 to 195. They get beat again.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Chase Anderson had a perfect game through the first 5. He had a no-hitter, I think, into the 7th. Finally gave up home runs to Jason Hayward and Chris Bryant, but only 1 other hit and 1 walk while working into the 9th. The first time in 2016 that the Cubs have lost in 2 days in a row. It's actually not 2 days in a row because they had a day off in between. But this is by far the worst slump of the year for the Chicago Cubs. They're 2-4 in their last 6 games. You've been betting against the Cubs. You're making a little bit of money over the last couple of days. Hasn't happened prior to this.
Always sneak in some football here. How about this Charlie Weiss, Brian Kelly story where, nice move by Notre Dame. Early into a 1-year early into his contract. In his first year, they gave him I think it was a 10-year extension. You got some staggering numbers here and a sad state of affairs if you're Brian Kelly.
Well, that's the funny thing about this story. Okay, Charlie Weiss was fired from Notre Dame 2009, was it? I mean, it was he was fired in November 2009.
Yeah, okay.
In 2015, 6 years after he got fired, he still made more money than the current Notre Dame head coach. They paid him almost $19 million since he left South Bend. And Kelly made $1.6 million for the 2014 numbers in that reporting period. Kelly made $1.6 million. Weiss made more than $2 million for that year. This is the question that, of course, he signed another 5-year, $12 million contract at Kansas.
Yes, at Kansas.
After he got fired at Notre Dame.
My God, they fell for that too. I know.
This is my question to you, Paulie, and you were talking about it when we were talking pre-show. How much does Charlie Weiss owe Tom Brady?
Oh
Because
my God!
all the money he got from college
Yep.
came from Tom Brady being a great quarterback in the NFL and Weiss getting credit for it.
Yeah, so he was getting paid by 2 different universities for doing nothing. And you're right with Tom. Here was the quote at the Notre Dame press conference. We have a decided schematic advantage. What I run is superior to the other offenses being run in college football. Holy Christ. They paid dearly for that. What a mistake by Notre Dame. And then Kansas made the same mistake. I still think they have one more payment due this year. It was 5 years for $12 million. I still think Kansas has another payment to Charlie.
It's a good gig if you can get it, man. I'd love to be getting paid for 10 years after I get fired from some job. But let's talk about Brian Kelly, because here's a guy who's been really, I don't know, controversial is the right word, but he's polarizing in some ways. I've always been impressed with Brian Kelly, dating back to his tenure at Central Michigan, through his time at Cincinnati, and even here in South Bend, where he's taken some Notre Dame teams that probably weren't as good as they, certainly that first year where he got the Notre Dame team, they got wiped out by Alabama in the title game. But I think Brian Kelly is absolutely a coach who's worth the money that he's getting, if not more. I'm a Brian Kelly fan, Paulie. What about you?
Yeah, excellent coach. People have a lot of problem with the F-bombs on the sideline, and he screams at players, get in their face. But, the profanity-laced tirades from time to time. I'm with you. I think he's an awesome coach, and he did a great job. I mean, how many starters did they lose last year?
So you ready for a profanity-laced tirade yourself, Paul, or should we take a break here and come back with Big Game Breakdown?
Big Game Breakdown up next. We'll start with Game 2. Can the Warriors and Kerr make the adjustments now and save the season and make this a series? That's coming up on SportsBit. Betting and Insight today.
Go to SBRodds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
All right, time for Big Game Breakdown. Game 2 tonight, OKC Golden State. Warriors 8.5. 222 the total. And you look at this graphic, which caused for concern for the Warriors. Durant and Westbrook, 17 of 51 and 3 of 8 from 3 combined. Thompson and Curry, 20 of 47 and 9 of 22 from 3. And they still lose the game. OKC gets the win. They played hard. They were aggressive. Everything changed in that second half, especially in the third quarter, Teddy.
Well, yeah. I mean, how does Oklahoma City win when Thompson and Curry outshoot Durant and Westbrook, particularly from three-point range. And again, they were dogs, obviously, in the game, playing at Oracle Arena. How'd they win? It's real simple. Look at the rest of the floor game. Oklahoma City wins the rebounding battle. Oklahoma City with fewer turnovers, particularly in that third quarter where the game turned. I believe they only turned the ball over once in the first 18 minutes of the second half. Oklahoma City with the shot blocking advantage. Oklahoma City with the steals advantage. And you're right, there really is a new pattern emerging right now for the Thunder. They're not winning just because of the raw talent. It's not just Westbrook and Durant outplaying people. They're winning because they're playing damn hard, Paulie.
Yes.
And we really saw that in game number one.
Now, here you got some quotes from Curry and Kerr about what they need to do tonight. I agree with Curry. I felt that they rushed shots, they weren't themselves, and the 14-point lead disappeared. I also agree with Curry that the foul, and Kerr said the same thing, all the fouls in the third quarter slowed them down, got them out of rhythm on offense, and they have to guard and get stops without fouling, and OKC had 16 free throw attempts in the third quarter.
Yeah, and I mean, it was all Russell Westbrook, in that third quarter for OKC. He was the most aggressive player. He took the ball to the basket. He dished to his teammates. It was Westbrook created just about every one of those free throw attempts. He also had 7 steals in the game. Let me start with a Westbrook quote. For me, my job is not just to score the basketball. My job is to get guys opened, defend, rebound, whatever it is that's needed at the time to help us win games. And he certainly played at a superstar level in that second half. Westbrook did just about everything. Now, we talk about some of the quotes from Golden State. This may take a minute, but I want to read these accurately and appropriately because for Golden State, basically, they're saying, how do we get our mojo back? Let's get back to being who we are. Steve Kerr, lots of quick shots, way too many quick shots. 5 minutes left in the game, and we're down 4 or whatever, and we were acting like we had 20 seconds left. 5 minutes is an eternity. We know how we have to play. We have to pass and move and create rhythm for ourselves with our screening and cutting. And I just felt like we took way too many quick ones that took us out of our rhythm. Steph Curry, the pace slowed down, especially in the third quarter with all the fouls that we had.
Yep.
And they got to the free throw line. So the pace wasn't in our favor. Then we just missed shots. Like I've been saying, we got stops and pushed and just rushed a little bit. So we need to have more patience, more composure, and we need to continue to be us. One last quote, Draymond Green. I don't think we were ourselves offensively in the second half. I think we were very careless. I think we were rushing. Everything was rushed. We lost our poised. Now, total has been lowered, Paulie. Monday closer of 225 down to 222 right now. Are the shooters going to settle in here?
Well, you look that's surprising because you look what happened in the fourth quarter. Durant, look at this graphic. Durant 3 of 12, Westbrook 1 of 4, Curry 1 of 6, Thompson 0 of 4, 5 of 26 total in the fourth quarter. And how many times is Golden State going to score 14 points in a quarter? So I think the shooters will settle in, and that was, what are the odds that all 4 guys struggle like that?
It was a really good defensive fourth quarter for both teams, I thought. OKC was spectacular on the defensive end in that ballgame, but I think the basic point for Golden State was right. Even though you think, hey, if you're shooting quicker, it's better for the pace, the Warriors, it's worse for pace. They're best when they're moving the ball around, not jacking up quick jumpers. They did a lot of that in game number 1. I would expect to see better ball movement and therefore better offensive rhythm for Golden State in game number 2.
And we'll see if the death lineup gets more play, too, because they got nothing out of the centers. Baseball now. Again, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. This is game 2 of a doubleheader. Red Sox, Royals. It's Price against Volquez. Boston, 145.7 the total. We told you Price was okay his last start. 12 strikeouts of the 27 batters he faced. Average fastball, 93.5 miles per hour. That matches a season high, and a good job by Price here lately.
Well, yeah, not lately. He had one good start. But we told you last week that he was fine, despite that fluky ERA. Look at the smile on his face right here. He knows he dominated the Astros, that his stuff is right where he wants to be. And, of course, coming to Kansas City, here at Kauffman Stadium, is a guy maybe have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder last night. He struck out 12 of the 27 batters he faced against the Astros. 2 starts against Kansas City from this mound in the playoffs last year. He pitched well in both games. The Blue Jays lost both games. 13.1 innings, 11 hits, 1 walk, 16 strikeouts. That's a great ratio, but the Royals scored 8 earned runs out of 12 base runners. That's just bad luck for Price. And, of course, playoff revenge, that can be meaningful sometimes. And, of course, a different story for the Royals this season. They're not scoring 8 earned runs on 12 base runners this year. Many of their bats seem to be simply broken, Paulie.
Yes, check the lineups because they have to face. They go from the Price and the knuckleballer last night with Stephen Wright. So we'll see what Yost decides to do. But also, what's going on with this offense this year with Kansas City?
Well, Wright's going game 1.
Excuse me. Yes,
open the doubleheader. Yeah, exactly. What's going on? I mean, look at the numbers. You know, their offensive number, their average is okay. The on-base percentage way down, number 22. The slugging percentage way down, number 23. And, of course, you know, this is a situation you really do need to check the lineups closely. Ned Yost is going to tell you what game he thinks he has the best chance to win with the lineup that he posts. I would anticipate he might rest some guys against Price in game number 2. But let me ask you this, Paulie.
Yeah.
At what point is Kansas City just an average team instead of just a defending champs? Because I'm telling you, this Royals team doesn't feel anything like the squad that we saw last year or the year before through the first 6 weeks of the campaign.
I give them another month. If they can't get out of it, then you know it's that dog can't hunt.
Yeah, it's worth noting that we do have some current finish projections from a couple of the advanced metric-based websites. Baseball Prospectus, right now, they got the Royals finishing 76 and 86. Fangraphs at 78 and 84. Yeah, they're the defending champs. Right now, they're pretty average.
All right, one more. We got the Yankees and the Diamondbacks. Eovaldi against Shelby Miller. Yankees $1.40 in this one. You look at this graphic. Eovaldi average fastball. First 7 starts, miles per hour, 96.7, 97.1, 96.5, 95.6, 96.3, and 97.4 against Chicago on Friday. Only Syndergaard at 97.7 is faster than that. But what's going on with Goldschmidt this year, Teddy?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Eovaldi's got these great numbers, but again, against the White Sox in his last start, he's throwing heat, but he's not being dominant. And, of course, Syndergaard, the only pitcher in Major League Baseball who's been faster than Eovaldi so far. But, you know, he's going up against an Arizona team that, they spent a bunch of money in the offseason. They've been a big disappointment. Reminds me perhaps of the Padres last year. The NL West teams that load up and spend a bunch of money have not done well. And Goldschmidt, you know, he's not a guy who struggles to make contact, particularly against fastball hurlers. But, man, where that contact is going, he's not hitting for power this year, not even a little bit. Look at the graphic. His career numbers, slugging percentage, .530. Last year, slugging percentage, .570. This year, slugging percentage, .446. And his batting average, obviously down nearly 100 points from where it was a year ago. He's still making contact, all right, but the BABIP, the batting average on balls in play, career .350, last year .382, this year .258. In his first 5 seasons, Paulie, he was never below .323, and that was his rookie year. Of course, what do power hitters do when they slump? They try to pull the ball too much. And look at, again, the career numbers show, you know, he's not pulling the ball. Last year, hitting the left field only 29% of the time. This year, he's hitting the ball to left field more than 45% of the time. Major uptick in Goldschmidt pulling the ball to left compared to last year and career rates. That's exactly what power hitters do when they struggle. Goldschmidt's in a world of hurt right now, but I don't know if he's the biggest disappointment on Arizona so far, Paulie, is he?
Shelby Miller's a dumpster fire. You asked me about the Royals. I'll ask you about what the Diamondbacks do with Shelby Miller. 1-4 with a 6.94 ERA. In 8 starts, he has more walks than strikeouts. And how far can they, in the season, can they go along with this and afford to keep putting them out there? Last 2 starts, faced 47 batters, 3 strikeouts. Where's the guy in Atlanta last year?
That's a good question. And some of it's been the luck factor has been against him. A lot of it has been ineffectiveness. When you have a pitcher that loses his mojo and a guy who you're not going to send down to the minors to get some seasoning, you just work through it. And for Arizona, that's what they've got to do with Shelby Miller right now. Tweak, adjust, look at game film, etc., etc. But so far, I think dumpster fire is an appropriate term to describe him.
Remember, liveoddsportsbookreview.com. Up next, the deep dive, why you don't want to be the first sportsbook to put out college football games of the year, and the play of the day on SportsBit. Betting insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much more.
Deep dive on SportsBit, Paulie and Teddy. Play of the day coming up. Why you don't want to be the first sportsbook to come up with college football games of the year. Friday, here in Las Vegas at the South Point, they released about 40 games. First week of July, the Golden Nugget will do about 140. But Teddy, I give Tony Miller credit and his staff at the Nugget, but it's been tough doing this every year that they've had to absorb some losses.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you note the books that are putting up the opening numbers, the Golden Nugget, the South Point. These are not the marquee books in Las Vegas. We think of the Superbook at the Westgate or the Canner books, at the M or at the Trop or whatever, as the marquee books and the books that, in theory, you think would put up these numbers first. They don't. Why not? Because it's the books that are trying to make a name for themselves that have to put up the first numbers. They're trying to draw action. They're trying to get wise guys in the door, which makes sense if you're a sports book that's looking for that kind of action. But the truth of it is that, the Nuggets been going first for many, many years here in Las Vegas. Not this year they didn't. You know why? They're getting clocked. They've gotten clocked. And the South Point, they didn't put up 140. They just put up 40, I believe it was. So they didn't go nuts. But, at the same time, the basic premise here, they got to be right on every one of these games. Bettors only have to find one quote-unquote mistake or one line that they feel is incorrect. And we talk about the advantage that the books have over the bettors. The books, you have to lay 11 to win 10. Mm-hmm. That's the basic advantage. The basic advantage of being a bettor is that you don't have to be right about everything. The books do. You only have to be right about one thing. One game and one bad line is all you're looking for out of a whole sheet. The lines maker's got to price everything right. So that is definitely an inherent advantage to being a bettor and not a bookmaker.
And that may have happened Friday when, again, they have Oklahoma rated number 2 in the country, power rated, and the pros came in and bet against Oklahoma, and you saw big line moves in that one, so that can add up in a hurry if you're right, if you're just wrong on one team. And that's happened at the Golden Nugget, and that could happen at the South Point. There's opinion backed in there. I know they were wrong a couple years ago. They thought Northwestern was good at the Nugget, and they got buried on that team.
Buried. Absolutely buried. And, of course, they were wrong about one team. So what did the bettors do? They went in there and found all the games with that one team and just pounded it the other way and made a fortune off of the Golden Nugget. Now, Chris Andrews, friend of SBR, friend of this show, a guy who has been a bookmaker in Reno for a couple of decades up in northern Nevada. He's got a long leash at the South Point. They want to have an aggressive book. They are willing to take losses on things like Game of the Year numbers in order to build their brand and build their reputation. So, and of course, when you're working in Reno, you have to find creative ways to get people to come in and bet at your venue. There's plenty of options there. It's not like a situation here in Vegas where you're going to naturally attract traffic. In Reno, you really got to do stuff to draw that traffic. So the fact that Andrew's now at the South Point, you and I both have relation with him, Paulie.
Yeah.
Maybe we should ask the viewers, what kind of props do you want to see? We can pass them along. Remember, there are a good handful of sportsbook guys that are watching SportsBit every day. You probably should too.
Yes, do that. Hit us up on the comments section on the YouTube videos and just post comments. We'll pass it along. You're right. And I know Jimmy Vaccaro, who works with Chris Andrews at the South Point. There's been several times where I say, Jimmy, put this prop up. A day later, bam, it's up. So whatever, throw it our way, we'll pass it on. And I guarantee you, if it's good, they'll put that sucker up and you can come and bet that.
Yeah, Mitch is, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is.
Sitting out there wherever. I know that we have audience members, people that watch this show from around the globe and around the country. But you're sitting there in Peoria, you're like, hey, I got an interest. What would this be priced at? Next thing you know, it's at a Las Vegas sportsbook a couple of days later. That'd be kind of cool. So yeah, let us know what kind of props you'd like to see. We'll do our best to pass them along to Chris and Jimmy over at the South Point. Kudos for going first.
Yep.
best of luck to your bottom line, boys, because I think that the bettors will once again beat the books with these opening game of the year numbers.
Money time, play of the day. Back to Golden State OKC. Where are we going, Teddy?
Well, let's see. Are Steph Curry and Klay Thompson going to go 1 for 10 combined in any fourth quarter again in their rest of their careers? Certainly not in the rest of the postseason this year. I say hell no. Let's look at the Warriors and Thunder. Over 222, game number 705, 706. We saw the scoring die in the fourth quarter in game one. I'm not convinced that happens this time around. Lots of talented offensive players for a Golden State and OKC. You guys know that already. I'm stating the obvious here. Warriors and Thunder over 222. That's the play of the day.
We'll see you tomorrow. MLB guest, more NBA playoffs on SportsBit. Thanks for the spike in views. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.